During my lower six is when I got selected for the Joshua Nkomo Scholarship Program. So I was in the very, very first cohort of the Joshua Litz program. And yeah, from there I did my A-levels, and during A-level I also then got selected for the United States Achievers Program. Then it was being run in the US Embassy. So then I ended up at Amherst College in Western Massachusetts. So that's where I did my undergrad on a full scholarship as a Koenig Scholar. I majored in neuroscience and I was pre-med. So convinced I would end up in medical school. That's not what happened. But yeah, I stayed in Boston for a little bit and I did some work there in cancer clinical trials. And then I went to University of Cape Town for my master's in public health as a MasterCard Foundation scholar at that point. And then I came back home and did some work with the Ministry of Health and the University of California, San Francisco. And then I got selected for the Global Health Co-Fellowship. So I went back to the US for 13 months and I worked in Washington, DC. And then I came back home at the end of July last year, where I'm currently working in community-based health programming and also doing my PhD with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. It's a lot of resilience. My mom died when I was 10, and I think that really impacted the way I saw life. I just felt like I kind of had to succeed because I didn't know any other way out. And it's a lot of hope and faith. I mean, I didn't know who was going to pay my A-level fees, and Joshua Lit happened. When I applied to UCT, I had zero funding. I had no idea. And the day after I got my acceptance letter, the MasterCard Foundation announced a scholarship, and I applied and I got that. So I think it's a lot of hard work. I think it's a lot of intentionality. I've been very intentional about the decisions I've made about my academic career, about my professional career, and making choices that lead me to where I want to go. And I think it's kind of paid itself forward in that way. I first learned about leadership as a Joshua Lit scholar. I'd never really thought about it. I think for me, my only comprehension of what it meant was actually from an experience that happened at my mother's funeral. So when my mom died, I barely remember what happened at that funeral, but I remember there's a young woman who came up to me and she had maybe a 4 or 5-year-old, and she said to me, your mother helped give birth to my child, and when we read in the newspapers that we died, we got on a bus for 10 hours and we came. My mom was a midwife by profession, right? And I remember thinking, well, what did my mother do for this stranger that they would sit for 10 hours to come to their former midwife's funeral? And that had such an impact for me. I was just like, to be able to live a life in such that the people you come into contact with can somehow be moved, be touched, feel different, be inspired. That for me was the type of leader, that's what I took as the type of person that I want to be. That's how I defined leadership for my 10-year-old brain. But I remember during our very first camp, I think they used to do like leadership camps for us. We had like an entire facilitator come and talk to us about leadership, and I think it made me extremely intentional. It made me think about how I presented myself, whether or not I had an authoritative title. How do you influence things? How do you make a difference? How do you inspire people just by being true and being yourself and making the decisions that work for you? So I think that for me was a very critical moment, that being part of this program has made me a very intentional, emerging leader. I don't know if I'm a leader yet, but yeah.